Dear younger ones, brothers and sisters in Islam, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's narrated that one man was one day walking in the deserts. And in the desert, as he was walking, he saw a group of people who were starving out of hunger. At that moment, he looked toward the skies and heavens and he said to his own self in his heart, he said that had I had the amount of food of the sand particles in this desert, I would have offered all of the food to these starving, hungry people. Immediately there was a response, a divine response sent to the Prophet of that time, informing him that, O Prophet, inform that person who had such a wish when he saw such a group of people starving and hungry, and he wished to provide them with that food that he wished to offer them, inform him that he has received the reward and the ajr and the thawab as if he has fed them, as if he has provided for them. Highlighting to us an important aspect of our day-to-day lives, which is what? Something that we need before we perform every action in our lives, and something we remind ourselves on a day-to-day basis and need to remind ourselves regularly, and that is something called intention. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarded that person, even though he did not have the amount of food in response to the sand particles, and he did not even give one piece of food to one of those starving people, but he was rewarded as if he fed all of them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within the Quran and the Hadith has highlighted to us the importance of something called intention, which in Arabic is called niyyat, or in Farsi niyaat. And that intention, what is it? Because we always ask one another, before we pray, we ask one another, what's the intention of this salah? When you go to Hajj and you see people when they're performing the a'mal, the rituals of tawaf, for example, or the various rituals, they'll keep on saying, Maulana, what's the niyyah? Tell me the niyyah. Have I said the niyyah correctly? And even when reciting ziyarah of the Ahlul Bayt, what's the niyyah of this salah? And they always wish to ensure that the niyyah is correct. Niyyah, intention, is the motive or the objective that one has when they wish to perform that action. And every action in our lives, every act of worship, starting from our salah, song, fasting, every act of worship, if the intention is incorrect, if the intention is wrong, or if the intention is anything but for the true intention that it should be, that whole action has become void. For every intention and every action, every act of worship, as we remind ourselves before our salah, should be qurbatan ila Allahi ta'ala. And if this intention, if someone were to perform the same act of prayer, we see two people performing an act of prayer, salah. Their act of prayer from the very first one when they say the takbiratul ihram, to the ruku', to the sujood, in terms of actions were exactly the same. But one of them had the true intention, which was the intention that should be in every act of worship, which was qurbatan ila Allahi ta'ala, in order to seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the other person, he didn't have the intention in his mind, and he just came to copy that person who's performing that action of prayer. No intention in his mind, and nothing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he just came and just to perform a few acts of that he thought these actions they look nice, for example. That person who had the intention of qurbatan Allah ta'ala would be rewarded for that salah, and his salah is accepted. That person who zahir On the outward look, if someone was looking at his prayer, would say that prayer looks like a fine, an absolute right prayer. But that prayer, because there was no intention for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this action, that action is void. It's as if he did not even pray. Or even those who, when they perform their salah or any of the acts of worship, they perform it not to seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we are reminded that mankind, ensure before you perform that act of worship, ensure that this intention that you have is qurbatan Allah ta'ala, the motive of your prayer, the objective, the reason why you're performing this is to seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During the action, remind yourself that you are performing this act of worship for Allah, for Allah, for Allah. And after, when you have completed this action, you've performed the action, you've performed salah already, remind yourself that that action was for Allah and for Allah alone. And if it's for Allah alone, it's for me to please Allah alone, to seek nearness to Him for the sake of Him, then there is no need for me to announce it to everyone else, to inform others, to make others happy. Because why? Because my sole purpose in this action is to please Allah and seek His nearness. And mankind needs to always be reminded, because anything other than for the sake of Allah, that action is void. Like that person who came to the masjid to perform salah, qurbatan ilallahi ta'ala. He had a pure and true and sincere intention that I've come to this mosque, this Husayniyah, this center in order to seek nearness to Allah. No one was in the mosque. He started his salah, Allahu Akbar, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and continued. He saw that there's no one, noticed no one's in the salah, no one's in the mosque, no one's praying also with him. So he thought, let me speed up the salah a bit. As he was performing his salah, he heard the door opening. So he noticed that someone must have entered. So he started to lengthen his salah, make the salah very beautiful voice, nice, the longer surah and everything. When he finished his salah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and he said his salams, he noticed when he turned around that it was an animal that had entered the mosque, the room. And he thought to himself, a wake-up call. At the beginning, my intention was to seek nearness towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but during the action, I voided, I ruined, I spoiled my action such that I pleased that animal, that I was making that animal happy with me. And this is a reminder for us all, that every intention and every action of ours needs to be for the sake of Allah, a good intention. That's why the hadith from the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam states, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, that for everyone who has a good intention would be rewarded according to that good intention. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His rahmah and His mercy is so abundant. Arhamur Rahimeen. He states to us, mankind, if you have a good intention and you are unable to perform that good intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a good deed, a hasanah, a thawab. And if you are able to perform that good deed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you how many deeds? He gives you 10 good deeds. Man jaa bil hasanati falahu ashru amthaliha. Whoever performs a good deed, a good action for the sake of God, is rewarded tenfold, 10 times, 10 deeds. And look at the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, whilst if you have an evil intention, a bad intention, a wrong intention, that intention you would not be punished for. But if you perform that action, that wrong action, you would be recorded for you. They would record for you how many sins? one sin. One sin. So Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam states, وَيْلٌ لِمَنْ غَلَبَتْ آحَادُهُ عَلَى عَشَرَاتُهُ. To perform a good deed, I receive 10. And even if I don't perform it, I get one good deed because I have the good intention. And if I have a bad action, I perform a bad action, I receive one sin, one sin, one sin. So Imam states, woe be upon that person that on the final day when his book of deeds has been opened for him, his ones are more than his tens. Are more than his tens. And some of us think we are clever or cleverer than others. Or some of us think that our calculator is greater than the calculations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or think we can do some loopholes in order for us to gain those good deeds. Look at the time of the sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq salawatullah wa alayhi. He saw and he witnessed with his own eyes a man stealing 2 fruits from the market. Whenever we perform action in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware, the messenger is aware, the messenger of Allah and the Imam of the time. The Imam of the time was seeing him, his action, that this man was stealing 2 fruits. He walked a bit, that man, with the 2 fruits that he had stolen. He walked a little further and he gave one of the fruits to charity, to a beggar in the street. Then he saw the Imam in front of him. Imam greeted him and he said, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what you've just done today? Look at the audacity of that man. He said, Ya Rasulullah, have you not read the Quran? Whilst the Imam is the walking Quran on earth. He said, yes, I'm aware of the Quran. He said, look, it says in the Quran, whoever performs one good deed, Allah rewards them 10. And whoever performs one sin, Allah punishes them and records for them 1. I stole 2 apples, 2 fruits, so I had -2, 2 sins. I gave one of the apples, the haram apple, I gave one of the apples to charity. -2 plus 10? 8. That's 8. So at the end of the day, my record is positive. Imam said an important point that we need to bear in mind. He said, لا يطاع الله من حيث يعصى. You cannot obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through disobedience, through sinning against Him. You stole 2 apples, -2, 2 sins. You gave a haram apple away. Haram, that was haram, that was not your property. -2, plus also in addition, a haram thing that you've done, you've received -3, 3 sins on your shoulder. And this is important for us all to be aware that when we perform a good action, don't spoil it. How? Before the action, ensure it's for Allah. During the action, ensure it's for Allah. Remind yourself in your salah, remind yourself this is for Allah. I'm doing this for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once you finish that action, remind yourself that this action that I've just performed was only for the sake of God. And only for Allah. For the ayah in the Quran states, Man ja'a bil hasana. Whoever has brought forward a good deed. Because some of us, we perform a good deed, we've completed the good deed, we've performed that salah, but that salah or that good deed has not been accepted. Why? Because after we've performed that good action, we've ruined it. We've spoiled it. We've informed the whole world. By the way, do you know last night I prayed Salatul Layl? Yes, it's on Snapchat for me to prove it. It's on this, it's on that. If it was for the sake of God and God alone, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has rewarded you abundantly for you and recorded for you the good deeds. So keep that good deed sealed for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man ja'a bil hasana falahu ashru amthaliha. Whoever performs a good deed, Allah rewards them 10 good deeds. intention. Al-a'malu bin-niyat. Even our actions are governed by their intentions. That's why not only our acts of worship, our salah, our fasting, our prayers, our hajj, our jihad should be only for the sake of Allah, but even Imam and the Holy Prophet said that make everything in your life for the sake of Allah. Everything you do, perform it for the sake of Allah, and you will be rewarded as a good deed, a good action that was done for the sake of Allah. That's why the prophetic statements, which is also mentioned in the Quran, of how they were and how they lived their lives, how the prophets lived their lives, how the Ahlul Bayt lived their lives, they will state in the Quran, it states, Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati, my prayers, my work, my life, my sleep, my death, everything in my life is for who? Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya lillah. Is for the sake of Allah. That's why the Holy Prophet, in a beautiful maxims of advice to Aba Dhar, that companion, that true noble companion, he says, Ya Aba Dhar, O Aba Dhar, whenever you perform a good action, ensure that you have a good intention for it. Then he states that, Ya Aba Dhar, even if that act is not an act of worship, Salah, for example, good intention must be qurbatan Allah Ta'ala. But even if it's for your akl, for your known, your other day-to-day activities in your life, make them have that intention that it's a good hasana in that action. وَحَتَّى فِي أَكْلِكَ وَنَوْمِكَ, have that have importance, ihtimam, that when I'm performing this action, I'm going to eat today in order for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for me to have energy for me to pray, for example. I'm going to go rest and sleep in order for me to have energy, inshallah, for me to wake up in the middle of the night to perform salah. Everything in your life, make it for who? For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you'll be rewarded with a hasana for that deed. For that deed, because why? Because even that action wasn't an act of worship, wasn't an act of ibadah, but you, because of the good qurba of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the good niyyah of having this action for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that action became a godly good action, and because of that, actions are governed by their intentions, and you are rewarded for it. Be careful, brothers and sisters. Whenever we perform an action, inshallah, before that action, remind ourselves, let me perform a good action for the sake of Allah. And after I perform that action, remind myself, that action was for the sake of Allah. And if it's for Allah, Allah will reward me abundantly. Like those three friends, Musa, Ibrahim, and Kareem. There was a fundraising session for the opening of a mosque. They needed funding. So Musa gave some money, Ibrahim gave some money, and Kareem gave some money. They gave some money for the opening of the center. When they came to the opening ceremony, everyone was there gathered for salah. The Imam of salah recited the prayers, Surah Al-Fatiha, and the first surah to recite, Surah Al-Fatiha, and the second surah he recited Surah Al-A'la. And the last few verses of Surah Al-A'la, what names does it have? It says, Suhuf Ibrahim wa Musa. This Kareem who was praying also inside Jamaica got very upset. Why is the Imam al-Salah mentioning the names of Ibrahim and Musa, but not my name, Kareem? After Salat al-Jama'ah, Maulana, Shaykhna, this is some more funding for the mosque. Next week came back again to the mosque for Salat al-Jama'ah, everyone was there. The Imam of Salat al-Jama'ah recited the same two surahs, Surah al-Fatiha and Surah al-A'la. The last verse, صُحُفِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَمُوسَى. You got even more upset. What is this? Are they giving more funding? Let me go give some more funding. Third week, now he's getting like excited. He must mention my name, Kareem. Mention my name a bit. Inform the whole world, Kareem done some funding. Again, the Imam recited Suhuf Ibrahim wa Musa. So, Kareem went and approached the Shaykh. He said, look, I funded you before the Salah. After. Every time I'm funding you, you're still not mentioning my name. Highlight my name in front of everyone. The Imam responded to him. He said to him, oh Kareem, if your intention was for the sake of Allah, your funding was for the sake of Allah, then there is no need for you to be of those who wish their name to be announced in front of everyone. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has rewarded you even more abundantly. And second of all, I've recited this surah in my salah because there is some thawab in reciting this surah, not with the intention of pleasing Ibrahim and Musa. Yes, whenever we perform any good action, do not spoil it, or do not ruin it, or do not waste it by having a wrong intention, or by being of those who wish to please anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Life in this world is very short, brothers and sisters. Al-fursatu tamurru marra as-sahaba. The opportunities that are there ahead of us shall go like how the clouds go. That's why Imam states al-fursatu is the fursa, the opportunity is like a treasure. Your yesterday has passed. Your tomorrow is uncertain. Al-an. So take advantage of now. Why? Before regret sets in. Al-an, qabla nadam. Now, before regrets. And what would be the greatest regret that we have? The greatest regret we'll have is from the moment that we no longer have life. Allah gave us a gift, the gift of life, for us to maximize our time in this world in seeking nearness to Him. Then there will be a group of people, when death approaches them and when life is taken away from them, they will say, Rabb irji'un, my Lord, let me return to this world. لَعَلِّي أَعْمَلُ صَالِحًا. It may be possible that if I return back in this world, I can perform good deeds. But it's too late. You had your time, you had your opportunity, you had the gift of hayat, you had the gift of life, but you were of those who wasted it. That's why there would be some on the day of judgment, when the book of deeds would open up to them, they would call out. And one of the names of the day of judgment, by the way, is Yawmul Hasra, Yawmul Nadam, the day of regret, the day of anguish. When their book of deeds would open up for them, they would say, Ya hasrata ala ma farrattu fi jambillah. Oh, how much I am full of regrets. Why are you full of regrets? For those things that I performed which were far away from bringing me closer towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you see those ayat in the Quran which highlight mankind's situation, some of the people's situation on that day. For example, those who they would bite their own hands out of regret and anguish, and they would state, Ya laytani lam attakhidh fulanan khalila. How in this world I wish that I did not befriend this person. Why? Why do you have such a regret now you're in the day of judgment, in such a day? Why? He would state, and this is a wake-up call for us, he would state, لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ. For he distracted me from the remembrance of Him, from the remembrance of Allah. And there will be others, they'll be full of anguish. They'll be full of regret. Why? يا ليتني اتخذت مع الرسول سبيلا. Oh, how I wish in dunya I befriended and followed the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi
wasallam. Nare Haidari.
Not only our intentions, if we have a good intention and perform that good action, will be rewarded for it. The hadith also states that if you have a good intention, but were unable to perform the action that you wish to perform, if it was a good intention for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you would be rewarded as if you performed that action. As if you performed that action. Because your intention was good. Tonight, before I go to sleep, for example, I have a good intention that inshallah I'll wake up before the time of Fajr in order for me to pray Salatul Layl. I wake up and the time of Salatul Layl has passed and I perform Salatul Fajr. I had the intention for me to perform Salatul Layl. I was unable to perform the action Salatul Layl. I will be receiving the thawab and the ajr as if I received and prayed, as if I prayed and performed Salatul Layl, for example. When the Holy Prophet with a group of mu'mineen left the city of Medina, with a group of believers, he looked afterwards to that group. He said, by the way, there are some who are still in the city of Medina. Every path that we took, this group with the Prophet, every hill we ascended, every track we descended down, every valley we crossed, they were part and parcel of our actions, and they received the thawab as if they were with us and amongst us. Some people looked at Rasulullah and said, Ya Rasulullah, they were not even here with us. They did not even witness us. They did not even perform the actions that we're performing with you. Rasulullah responded, Sharakuna bihusnin niyyah. They were partner in our actions because they had the good intention, the godly intention to be with the man of God, to be with the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Al-a'malu bin-niyat. Their actions are governed by their intentions. There was a man in the battlefield. Defend for Islam. Be there for the sake of Allah. But do you know what they called this person when he passed away? They did not call him Shaheed. Shaheed is a person that when he passes away, his life and death was for the sake of Allah, and he performed that action with the intention for the sake of Allah, and he wished only to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you know what they called that person? Qatilul Himar. The one who died for donkey. Why? They said because when he went to that area of the battlefield, he looked at the other side, he saw there was one person who had a nice donkey, he owned a nice donkey. So he said, let me enter this battlefield and kill that person and obtain and gain his donkey. All he wanted was booty of war, the treasures of the war. All he wanted is one thing, which was the donkey. He did not perform the action for the sake of Allah. So he was that person who was far away from the teachings and the actions, the godly actions. So even his life wasn't for Allah, and his death, his remembrance of his death was far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a reminder for us all. If we come to this gathering, to these sessions, let our intention be for the sake of Allah. And let our actions here be pure for the sake of Allah. Let us be of those who, when Amir al-Mu'min was in the battlefield of Jamal, in that victorious battle, that Amir al-Mu'min, Aliyun ma'al haq wal haqqu ma' Ali. Ali is with the truth and the truth is with Ali. There was some who came to Amir al-Mu'min and said, Ya Amir al-Mu'min, I have a brother and he was unable to come and be with us and be in the ranks and the side of Amir al-Mu'min, Asadullah al-Ghalib. But Ya Amir al-Mu'min, he loves you and he wishes to be with you. Amir al-Mu'min asked him, was he someone who wished and had the intention to be with us, to be with Amir al-Mu'mineen? He said, yes, he wished to be with us and with you for the sake of Allah and Allah alone, but he was unable to arrive at that end. Amir al-Mu'mineen responded, for he shall also be of those who are rewarded of those who are with Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib. He would be of those who are as if they were here, amongst those who are with Ali ibn Abi Talib. And this is a reminder, for Amir al-Mu'mineen said, not only he was rewarded for being with Amir al-Mu'mineen, but Imam says there are some who are in the loins of their father, in the wombs of their mother. And when time comes to that moment, when they come to this world, they would have wished to be with Amir al-Mu'mineen. They wish to be with the side of Ali ibn Abi Talib. They would be given the strength and faith as if they lived their life for Amir al-Mu'mineen, with Amir al-Mu'mineen, for the sake of Allah, Allah alone. For Amir al-Mu'mineen was a man, his life to death, all of his life, everything he had was for the sake of Allah. As he was struck in the mihrab, as he was praying, what did he say? Fuztu Rabbi Ka'bah. I have gained victory for the sake of Allah by the Lord of the Ka'bah. And many of us, we wish to be of those who joined the University of Allah. Established when it says 680 AD. And we're years and years far away from that university. We look at one another and say, we wish we were there with Hussein ibn Ali. We wish we were with Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. We wish we were with Zainab alayhi salam. We wish we were amongst the 72 companions. And every single companion and family member, and every single one of them have lessons for us to learn. And if we wish to be amongst them, if we wish to be of those who graduated from that university, then we need to implement and practice those lessons in our life today. In our life today, if I wish to be Husseini and be of those who are with Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, then it needs to show in my life today. If I wish to be like Sayyida Zainab and how she stood firm against the oppressors of the time, today I need to be like Sayyida Zainab, patient and also stand firm against the oppressors of the time, the tyrants of the time. Yes, there were those who even asked Imam Ar-Rida salawatullah wa salamu alayhi that we wish to have been with Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Imam Ar-Rida says that if you wish to have been amongst them, then say these words: Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum fa'afuza. Ya laytani kuntu ma'ahum. How I wish I was amongst them, for I would have been فَأَفُوزَ مَعَهُمْ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. For I would have gained a true victory, a victory of happiness and success had I been with them. And today, if I wish to be with them, it needs to be shown in my intention and in my action. Am I a Hussein? Imam has invited us today to his path. In the same way that Aba Abdullah al-Hussein invited many towards his path as he was heading towards Kufa. He would write letters to them. He would state that إن تسمعوا قولي وتطيعوا أمري. If you were to listen to Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, your Imam, and if you were to obey your Imam, these two qualities are needed in us today. Listen to the Imam of my time, listen to the Ahlul Bayt, listen to the Quran, listen to the teachings that bring me close to Allah, and also not just listen, but also obey. وَتُطِيعُوا أَمْرِي. Obey the Imam of the time, obey Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, obey the Ahlul Bayt, obey the Quran, obey the teachings that bring you closer towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He states, أَهْدِكُمْ سُبُلَ الرَّشَادِ. I shall guide you to the path of perfection and happiness. Brothers and sisters, there were some who accepted the invitation of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. They joined Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Like Zuhair ibn al-Qaym, when Imam sent that messenger towards him, Zuhair, he was encouraged by his family, by his wife, go join Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And they both had good intentions and their actions were shown in Karbala. Zuhair became one of the shuhada that we remember. And there were those, Imam invited them, but they rejected the message. They did not heed the message of Abu Abdullah. For example, a man like Abdullah ibn Hur, Imam sent him a message, come join. He did not join the army of Hussein. He did not join the ranks of Hussein. He did not join to be with Abu Abdullah. Like today, Imams invited us here. Where we are in the world today, and tonight I'm in a majlis of Abu Abdullah. He has invited me to his path. He's saying, if you wish to join salvation, come to this path. If you want guidance, come to this path. If you want truth, come to this path. If you want peace, happiness, victory, everything you want, good you want, come to the path of Hussein. And that's what the Prophet says. إِنَّ الْحُسَيْنِ مُصْبَاحُ الْهُدَى وَسَفِينَةُ النَّجَاةِ. The Prophet says, Hussein, his path is the path of true guidance. And joining Hussein is like joining the ark of salvation, Najat. Abdullah ibn Hur ignored the message, did not accept. After the events of Karbala, he realized that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein became a shaheed. Companions became shuhada. Banu Hashim family members became shuhada. Sayyidah Zainab and the women of Banu Hashim and all of the ladies who went as captives from Karbala to Kufa to Sham, they had victory in the message of Hussein. Abdullah ibn Hur, he had a lifetime of regrets. He would say these words of poetry, now it's for me a lifetime of regret. As long as I'm alive, Abdullah ibn Hur, I'm full of regrets. Why? Because لَقَدْ فَازُوا أُولِي نَصَرُوا حُسَيْنًا. Those who have been victorious foes, who are they? Those who are victorious with Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And I, Abdullah ibn Hur, did not join them. Tonight, the first night of this majlis, that we've been invited by His true mercy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the strength to come to such a gathering, to remember Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. May Allah bless you all for such movement that you've made towards the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, towards the ark of salvation, towards the lantern of guidance. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he bears witness on the day of judgment for those who truly stood in support and love for Aba Abdullah Hussein and Sayyida Zainab. And every musibah we have in our lives, brothers and sisters, cannot be compared to the tragedy and the grief that went through on that day, the tragic days of Ashura. Every grief we have, every difficulty we have, every pain we have, remember and remind yourself, La yawm ka yawmuka ya Aba Abdullah. There is no tragedy and no grief like the tragedy of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. And these days we remember the grief and tragedy that Zainab had to go through. Zainab, who was a partner with Aba Abdullah Hussein in every act for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On that day of Ashura, Zainab would be running from the khayma and she would be calling out as Banu Umayyah and the tyrants and the enemies would be harming and would be attacking the one who was beloved to Rasulullah, Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. They'll be attacking him, one with their swords, a group with their swords, a group with their spears, a group would throw and pelt stones at Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, a group would dagger, would stab him with daggers, a group would kick Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Zainab would call out, Azharam ta qatlaga Zainab sadami zad Hussein dast و پا می زد حسین زینب صدا می زد حسین. As they will be attacking Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, as that man will harm Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, Zainab would call out, Wa Muhammadah, Wa Rasulallah, Yawmun ala Sadr al-Mustafa, Wa Yawmun ala Wajh al-Thara. هكذا قال المصطفى هكذا قال المرتضى. She would say, Ya Allah, Ya Rasulullah, bear witness, one day I would see Rasulullah hug Hussein, embrace Hussein, kiss Hussein. Now I see Shimran ibn Jawshan embracing Hussein with the swords and the daggers of Banu Umayyah. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.